Are we hot? Okay, we're hot. Hi, Missoula. I'm McCarthy Coyle, and this is a public conversation. And we'll open the phone lines about 10:30 for your calls, comments, questions. We're going to be showing some footage, a short tape, about 10 minutes of the March on Washington that was held last Sunday. The coming together of anywhere from 350,000 people to 1 million people that were marching for the rights of gays and queers, marching for the rights of all of us as a society. So we're going to have a 10-minute tape produced by Joel Baird of Missoula, who was on that march. You'll see that later. And we're going to have a guest, Tracy Prey, who was also on the march, and he'll be here shortly to join us for a conversation about the march. And I don't know about the rest of you, but it's been a long week for me. Before we get started on the gist of the show, I was thinking, in Missoula here, the first bank, what was the first bank, across from the post office downtown on Broadway, and then the first bank decided that they didn't need that space for one reason or another, and that they were satisfied with their other offices in Missoula. And there's a prime piece of real estate downtown, and I love free enterprise. And the first bank now says, well, why shouldn't that empty bank become a federal courthouse? Somehow, I think I mentioned this maybe a couple of weeks ago on a show before, but I find a certain irony there about, a federal courthouse and a bank, and the bank now has an empty building and they're losing money, and so who's going to pay for it? You and I will pay the taxes to create a federal courthouse that goes in a bank building. Banks and courts, banks and United States courts. I don't need a federal courthouse in Missoula. Let them hold their hearings in a closet or something like that. But Now, advertising, television advertising. It's still a rare thing in this country. In Missoula, when did you ever see a prophylactic advertised on television? I mean, we have all sorts of news shows nationally and discussion shows about the problems with AIDS and socially transmitted diseases, but local television broadcasters and national television broadcasters who advertise everything from incontinence diapers to patent medicines, anything that they can get their hands on, and they refuse to advertise prophylactics, health measures. I came across an interesting magazine called Adbusters, and they talk a lot about advertising. This is the magazine they put out, and they put out a lot of print advertising themselves, what I guess would be called counter advertising. And then they produce television advertising. They produce television advertising which is often rejected. They can't even buy the time to put their television advertising on. Why is that? Because it's advertising like this. Now, this is an excerpt from that magazine. The world's biggest drug pusher, right? Can you see that, Jeff? And I'm reading here, this is from this is an open letter to the chairman of Philip Morris Companies. Mr. Maxwell, your company has one of the worst ethical records in North America. For years, you have been the world's biggest promoter of cigarettes and kingpin of an industry that sends 1,000 North Americans to early graves every day. Your advertising has portrayed cigarettes with an image of glamour and health that is completely at odds with the insidious reality of smoking, etc., etc. I'm skipping here a little bit. Specifically, until you stop advertising cigarettes, we will promote a boycott of 3 of your most popular non-tobacco products: Miller Beer, General Foods Raisin Bran, and Kraft Philadelphia Cream Cheese. And likewise, until they stop accepting your cigarette advertising, we will promote a boycott of the Dirty Dozen, 12 popular American magazines which publish your tobacco ads. The time has come to end your marketing of death. And that is ad copy from the organizers of the Philip Morris and the Dirty Dozen boycott, the Media Foundation, Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. And the Dirty Dozen magazines that they have listed are in which Philip Morris advertises: Sports Illustrated, People Magazine, TV Guide, Time Magazine, Woman's Day, Family Circle, Better Homes, Newsweek, Playboy, Cosmopolitan, U.S. News and World Report, and McCall's Magazine. So those are the Dirty Dozen magazines that that Philip Morris advertises in. And they're calling for a boycott on those Dirty Dozen ad busters out of British Columbia. Here's another one that they did. Excuse me while I filter through my stuff. And I got to find my copy on this so I can read here. And here we go. Sorry about that. Can you come in on that, Jeff, please? All right, good. Discover a wilderness, a cut above the rest. Am I getting that last word right? Yeah. Discover a wilderness that's a cut above the rest, right? And the advertising copy, it says, fact is, British Columbia is a sight for sore eyes. The hushed, breathless landscape, the smoky mists rising beyond the slash, the luster of char-blackened tree stump and earth. Our hidden treasures have amazed tourists for years, and fortunately, now there is more of it than ever. More with the passing of every year and every forest. As century-old growths forfeit an ancient legacy in our service, their restless abandon is tamed to symmetry and logic, tree farms and plantations. Come explore supernatural British Columbia, the lingering silence of the abandoned landscape, the echo of 1,000 fleeting footsteps, long since faded. You too will be amazed. Supernatural British Columbia. Adbusters, they're doing a good job. And I think I just wanted to call attention to, Senator Burns, Conrad Burns. Remind me, by the way, Tracy, when we get into our conversation here in a few minutes, to remind me, if you can, to recall a story about me and Conrad Burns and the Robert Mapplethorpe photos. Anyway, Conrad Burns' PAC contributions from the telecommunications industry. The biggest one is the cable company that's carrying Channel 7, Telecommunications Incorporated. Anyway, from 1989 to 1992, the second biggest proportion of Conrad Burns's political cash support from PACs came from the telecommunications industry. Ameritech, AT&T, Bell South, Computer and Communications, ComSat PAC, Contel, DSC Communications, GTE, International Telecharge, National Telephone Co-ops, Northern Telecom, etc., etc., etc. Anyway, more on Conrad Burns. I was to a meeting the other night up at the university. He's got some kind of Some kind of a scam going on here in state. Oh, there's a lot of, anyway, enough of that. Conrad Burns. Okay. By the way, for those of you who tuned in late, this is a public conversation. My name's McCarthy Coyle. We've got a great crew. Betty Ammon is directing from the studio, and Tracy Allison is running sound and answering phones. The phone lines will open about 10:30. And Jeff Smith on camera, on 2 cameras, in fact. This is an essay from yesterday's New York Times by the Pulitzer Prize-winning writer Anna Quindlen. And it's entitled The Power of One. Excuse me, I need a little drink of water here. The Power of One by Anna Quindlen. You bear with me a minute here. This is from the op-ed page of yesterday's New York Times. That's April the 28th. Now we have the numbers game. How many gay people are there in the nation? 10%? 1%? 4%? It depends on whom you ask, what survey you read, how statisticians and sex experts crunch the numbers, which respondents tell the truth, and which don't. How many marched in Washington on Sunday for the civil rights of gay men and lesbians? 300,000? 500,000? 1 million? Or more? It depends on whether you ask the park police or the march organizers. But at some level, none of it matters at all. I know that gay men and lesbians have ample reason to believe their political clout in America. The most quantifying of let me take that again. I know that gay men and lesbians have ample reason to believe their political clout in America, the most quantifying of countries, will be measured by their numbers. I know, too, that those who want to prove that homosexuality is a, quote, deviant lifestyle, close quote, are anxious to show that the demands are disproportionate to the number of demanders, as though the right to be treated fairly depended on a head count. But it's the power of one that really brings change. No one's head is truly turned around by a faceless sea of folks seen from a distance marching on the Capitol, or by numbers on sexual behavior from a research center. It's the power of one that does it. It's the power of one man like Sergeant Jose Zuniga, who was the 6th Army's 1992 Soldier of the Year and a medic in the Gulf War. Before the march, he stood before the television cameras and so before the world and said, with a chest full of medals, that he was proud to be a soldier and he was proud to be gay. Right that minute, maybe, some fellow vets and fellow Americans wrote him off. But there have to be people who have worked with him, trained with him, fought with him, who are now forced to re-examine their attitudes toward gay men, to compare their prejudices with what they know of this one individual. Maybe in the beginning, those people will decide that Sergeant Zuniga is the exception, and that the rule is that gay men are predatory, effeminate, unfit for service. They may embrace the old, well, okay, but analysis, which we have seen with blacks, with Latinos, with women, and now with gay people. It goes like this. Hey, Jose is okay, but the rest of them. Stereotypes fall in the face of humanity. Stereotypes fall in the face of humanity. You tootle along thinking that all gay men wear leather after dark and should never ever be permitted around around a little league field. And then one day your best friend from college, the one your kids adore, comes out to you. Or that wonderful woman who teaches third grade is spotted leaving a lesbian bar in the next town. And the ice of your closed mind begins to crack. Day by day, this is how the world will change for gay men and lesbians with the power of one. One person who doesn't fit into the straight world's fact pattern and so alters it a tiny bit, irrevocably. A revered actor who was typecast in tough guy roles. A beloved female friend who cannot be transformed into a hate object. Coming out is a powerful thing. It is why the march, one of the biggest civil rights demonstrations in the history of this country, was most powerful when it reflected not quantity, but quality. A sunburned man in chinos, two silver-haired women hand in hand, smiling, a woman pushing a stroller. Sure, there were men in lipstick and women in buzz cuts, and women in lipstick and men in buzz cuts. Like straight people, gay people are a diverse group. To paraphrase Gloria Steinem on turning 50, well, this is what gay looks like. In recent years, gay men and lesbians have moved purposefully ahead in the civic arena, putting money behind candidates, crafting anti-discrimination legislation, demanding that their relationships be formally recognized. No matter what their numbers, they've become a formidable political force. But a veneer of tolerance atop a deep pool of hatred, distrust, and estrangement is no more than a shiny surface, as civil rights leaders can testify from decades of experience. The numbers in Washington were not as important as the faces. The sheer humanity of one person after another stepping forward saying, "Look at me. Look at me. I am a cop, a mother, a Catholic, a Republican, a soldier, an American," and so the ice melts. The hate abates. The numbers finally all come down to one. And I'd like to welcome one Montanan who was in Washington last Sunday, Tracy Prey. Come on in.
McCarthy.
It's good to see you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming down.
It's nice to be here.
Good. Tracy, I know that you grew up on the High Line up in Malta,
Yes.
small town, and you've been living in Missoula for several years. You're studying at the University of Montana in performing arts,
Yes.
and you bring in some bread by working as a hairdresser.
That's right.
Is that right? Okay, good. So, what motive? Thanks for going to Washington, by the way.
Yeah.
And what propelled you? What motivated you to? Why now? Why was it important for you to go?
Oh, interesting question. A lot of things came into play and seemed to fall into place and point in that direction. Mostly that we do need to be counted. Aside from the fact that there were going to be a million some homos there, how much fun does that sound to you?
And there were about a dozen Montanans, or
Actually, there were 50 Montanans there.
50 Montanans.
Mhm. And several former Montanans came to check in with us.
And there was an entry in the parade. I mean, the march. I heard that Montana was number 94 out of 100.
94.
94. And so who are, and fairly even group of people, I mean, men, women?
Yeah, I think so. It's hard to take that tally because actually all 50 people who came didn't march with the Montana contingent.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them were originally from other places and they chose to march with those people.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm just remembering that we've got footage of the march, right?
Right.
Produced by Joel Baird
Yeah.
from Missoula,
Yeah.
who does a lot of work down here on our Missoula Community Access Television. So why don't we take a look at that tape that Joel made? And he did. Excuse me, Betty, if you hold up just a second. Joel asked me, because he hasn't finished up the whole thing, if I can find my notes here in this mess. Joel, the producer of this tape that you'll be seeing here in just a minute, the first part, or early in the tape, Joel told me this was in back of the White House, and you'll be seeing a group of, a veterans group marching in support of gay rights. And then there are other gays who are, pro-gay rights, but anti-military, and so they were kind of protesting the vets groups who were marching. So, I mean, there's democracy for you. And then Joel said, you'll notice in this tape, Joel wanted me to point out that there were media watchdogs who were alert to the fact that a lot of the major network cameras were, seeking out the exotic gays and lesbians, and so you'll see these media watchdogs, the gay media watchdogs. I'm sure they weren't all gay, but saying, "Hey," shouting out, "Fair coverage! Let's have some fair coverage. Let's show them the whole face of America. Show them the Republicans and the mothers and the nuns, and don't just show the exotics." And then there was a small counter demonstration. And so, Betty, let's roll Joel's tape, please.
Infinium bicolor. Which one is the... Well, what it says is that, out is in. I mean, America is just as gay as it is black, as it is Latino and everything else. And, there's 1.5 million people here in Washington. I don't know, if I were walking down the street and I saw this, it would say to me that, homosexuality is no longer a positive thing, and that we vote and we buy things. And, it's a powerful force.
Okay, let me get a second. the right to love, not the right to kill. We demand the right to love, not the right to kill. We demand the right to love, not the right to kill. We demand the right to love, not the right to kill. We demand the right to love, not the right to kill. We demand the right to love, not the right to kill. We demand the right to love, not the right to kill.
God forbid you. It's a shame when a king got you. Repent, wicked, nasty, nasty, evil, 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 wickedness, 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 abomination, 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 abomination. If you were so right, you would.
Very hard to trust.
Almost a more Christian than...
Great. Hey, thanks Joel Baird for that. That's the first Montana-made tape of the march, and I appreciate that Joel made the tape and that he was kind enough to allow me to be the first to air it in Missoula. Trace, how are we doing on that sound? We need to correct anything on the whistle? Okay. Tracy, do you consider yourself a political person?
Consider myself a political person. I guess so. A little bit, you know.
Mm-hmm. I mean, what...
This was my first march.
Mm-hmm.
It's only the past couple of years that I've become politically aware, really.
Mm-hmm.
Very much at all.
Mm-hmm. And what did you bring back from Washington? I mean, in other words, what was it like to be with a group of Montanans there? I mean, what did
you know, I wasn't with a group of Montanans. I mean, we checked in with each other. We did a few things together now and again. It was a place I wanted to move to that didn't exist. It was 1.3 million open-minded people that didn't live with doubts about each other or fears about what might have been around the next corner. It was the most wonderful experience I think I've had yet.
Mm-hmm.
It was just great.
Mm-hmm. And do you feel changed by it? I mean, in terms of like how you feel about being back home in Missoula and in Montana and you know, life here and what you see ahead for yourself or what you want, what you'd like to see happen?
This is a particularly hard day to ask that question. I just got back and I still want to be there, you know, and right now Montana isn't as appealing as the experience that I left behind, for a lot of reasons, and not just homocentric ones.
Mm-hmm.
You know, urban life has a lot to offer.
Mm-hmm. But do you think that, like, I mean, well, are you, let me switch gears a minute, because you told me you stopped in as part of a small group which included Diane Sands of the Montana Women's Lobby,
Right.
and Anne Mary Dussault, one of the Missoula County Commissioners, and you visited with a staff member of Senator Baucus,
Yes.
because the senator was unavailable that day.
Right. He had originally reserved time for us, but had to meet with an embassy off the hill someplace. And apparently it was more important, which I'm sure it was, because he is fairly supportive and...
How so?
He listened to us at least.
Well, what do you mean he listened to you?
He provided us a space to talk. He wants to know what we want him to do.
He does?
Mm-hmm.
Well, why wasn't he there?
McCarthy, I don't know. He had something that was pretty inevitable for him to do. I don't know about. I'm much more cynical than you are, I guess, about politicians. I mean, in other words,
wouldn't you think that a senator could turn around and say, well, I'm sorry, I can't meet you at 2 o'clock, but would you please meet with me tonight at 7 or at 6 o'clock in the morning for coffee, because this is that important? I'm sorry, I have grave reservations about, Bill Clinton was out of town. If Max Baucus or any of the Montana delegation has something specific to say about this important area of civil and human rights, then let them say it in public. And did the staff member hand you a piece of paper and say this is what the senator thinks or says? But I'm not trying to say that you should think like I do, but I have a lot more cynicism about. No, he could have met with you. He could have met with you later on,
Well, things were scheduled pretty tight for all of us then, There was a lot going on. I have some literature here. There was a lot going on. It was amazing.
Well, what would you like? What would you like to see happen on the federal level in terms of national legislation or legislation here in Montana or life here in Missoula?
I think we all want the same thing. We just want equal civil rights. We'd like money spent specifically for lesbians and gay men to have good health. There are so many topics. It's really confusing. There's so much need.
All right, I think we've got a call.
Civil rights.
All right. Excuse me. Hello, you're on the air.
Hey, Matt.
Hello.
Did you hear the hearings this morning?
I did not.
Well, they were the usual homophobic dribble. A black general gets on, he says, well, there's a big difference between being black and being homosexual. I didn't have a choice, they do, which is all up in the air and spurious and all that stuff. Then,
Excuse me. Ray?
Huh?
Is that Ray?
Yeah?
Could you take one step back and reintroduce the were these the hearings on gays in the military that you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
So we have this black general going on.
A black general.
And the next thing that happens is some authority on something gets up the military, I suspect, and he says, let's just call this pretend gay man Nunn. And Senator Nunn goes, well, let's not. And they just crack up. It's such a good joke. They do it to somebody else at the committee hearings. And then the word he uses to describe this sample gay man in the military turns out to be fudpucker. Do you know what that sounds like over the air? Well, we will tomorrow when MCAT gets all those calls. Anyway, my feeling is that there are two forces at war. It's homophobia against civil rights, and I personally hope that civil rights wins out.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, I don't think so.
Hey, well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
It was pretty interesting. Jesse Jackson, I got to hear Jesse Jackson speak on stage, and he blended blacks and gays in the same speech with civil rights.
And that was over the weekend in Washington?
Yeah, it was on Sunday during the march.
Well, I noticed it was interesting that the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People were a major presence in the march, and that they have really adopted this as a civil right. In other words, they say, we fought our battles, we're still fighting them, and they were basically saying,
we're going to bond with you here.
Yeah, and that was I thought an interesting evolution. I was really happy about that. I think we got a caller on line 2. Hello, you're on the air.
McCarthy, this is Catherine.
Hi, Catherine.
I wanted to thank you for having this on the air. I was pretty disappointed about the banner that was on the Montaignes for solidarity with the marchers in D.C. and that it wasn't covered by any of the media in town, even though they were all notified. And it's the thing you were reading about the power of one was very interesting, and it's like we made our voices heard here, and it's unfortunate that the media doesn't speak for us and offer both sides. Often it seems like there's a lot of anti-gay
Catherine, before you go, I mean, I wanted people to, those folks in Missoula who didn't get a chance to see it, I woke up Sunday morning where I live, and I was just gazing across the river, and there's this huge, beautiful banner hanging from the off of the roof of the Montaigne, and it was a just beautifully painted triangle. And Catherine, I understand you and one or more of your friends were responsible for that, right?
Yes, that's true.
Go ahead.
There was a lot of people who were involved in it, and a lot of people who called, and we spoke to each other about it within our community, that, it was a pretty empowering thing for us, and it just kind of happened, and we all wanted to be in Washington, but we couldn't, so.
Well, Catherine, thanks for calling. Let me ask you, what do you think about the life here in Montana, and what do you see as let's say the strengths and the weaknesses of the gay and lesbian community, or what should be happening as people try and move forward?
Well, I think that in Montana we feel fairly safe, and I think that that's one of the reasons that we live here. And I think that we're safe enough and relaxed enough, we don't lock our doors, that we don't. It's hard for us sometimes to keep our energy at a really strong political level to go with the movement, but I think that it's very important for the gay and lesbian community in Montana to be aware that the people who are in the movement against civil rights and for taking away our rights are very strong everywhere in the country, and that they will come to Montana. And it's important, I think, in Montana that we get our energy together at some level and proact to the situation instead of react. And I think that it is the gay 90s, and I think that it's time for us to take our power. And though there are many of us out here in this community that are taking that power and just putting up a banner of whatever way we can. And it's nice to see that, there are other people who are speaking their voices for us, such as yourself, and we appreciate it.
Go ahead. Stay on the line, Catherine.
Catherine, they're not coming to Montana. They're here in Montana. The Ku Klux Klan is really strong in Billings. I was only in on the last 20 minutes of the meeting with Bacchus's flunky, whoever he was. I can't remember his name. He was a nice man, but...
Earlier you said that the man that Bacchus designated to meet with you, though, didn't have, his area was not civil rights.
He was an environmentalist.
He was an environmentalist.
He was extremely open and willing to speak out for us and advise Max what to do. For 20 minutes we talked about how to fight the Ku Klux Klan and the far right, and put together some sort of a program that we can self-educate about, because they are here and they are doing things, very threatening things in Billings. It's pretty scary over there.
I was at the National Gay and Lesbian Task Force Fight the Right conference in Denver in March, and I'm really aware that they're here, and so I think that I think that our community needs to be aware of that too, and that they're busy. And there are people in Montana, many groups of people who are not necessarily lesbian or gay people, who are keeping track of what they're doing. And unfortunately, I think we get so comfortable in our lives that we don't pay attention, and we don't realize that it's something that if we don't work to change it now, they are working to change the way that freedom is in America even more. And they'll accomplish that if we can't draw ourselves together. And I really appreciate that you're there too, Tracy, and you're doing what you're doing to speak your voice.
All of us.
I think sometimes that it's interesting to me that I think that one of the reasons that it's very subtle, that I think a lot of gay people are really deprived of economic rights by dint of being gay. I mean, in other words, like whether that's job advancement or job availability, or if when you get quote, straight people who are married, then they get certain benefits, tax benefits and mortgage benefits and things like that. And so I don't like it when there's this pretense that the reason why a lot of people, gay people who want to form partnerships and want to do it legally, that there is a very real pragmatic economic reason for doing that.
Absolutely.
That they're discriminated against versus other families, you know.
That was a major vein throughout the whole weekend, was trying to get the Americas to realize that we are family.
Mhm.
We are family. We are family. You know, hate is not a family value.
Excuse me, is that another caller, Betty? Okay, thank you. Well, Catherine, do you have anything else to add?
Well, my understanding is that the way that oppression is perpetrated is by going to certain groups of people and saying that this group of people is the cause of your economic and your social chaos. And there was an article in the paper yesterday, Mike Royko column, that implied that gay people all make $55,000 a year, and that this is one of their misinformation, that we travel overseas and all of this. And most of the people that I know don't make $55,000 a year. And the thing about being gay or lesbian is that we are everywhere and we are everybody. And we are no more the cause, by the fact that we want to be free to be who we are no more the cause of anybody's problems than we are our own. And it's important that all groups who fight for any kind of protection for the environment or pro-choice, Native American rights, that we all coalesce with each other to fight the forces of oppression, because that's basically the problem.
Well, thanks for saying that, because one of the things that I think is that as just as the Greens and the environmental groups count on everyone, you know, they want all the allies that they can get. Well, it's easy enough to politically, I think these days, to be an environmentalist and to be a supporter of environmental causes, but it would be nice to see, you know, environmental organizations in Montana, you know, turn about as fair play, and let them come out let them come out formally and endorse human rights and positions. And you know, I mean, let's see a little bit more political cooperation. You get the jibe on that, right, Catherine?
Yes, it's true. I mean, if people don't act for a common cause and identify their common ground, then we can't act on common ground. And it's important that we do to achieve, you know, freedom, whatever it is that we're after.
Something that when I think, you know, it's interesting that the Holocaust Museum was dedicated over the weekend. And did you get there?
I didn't get there. I heard from so many people
that the museum dedicated to the memory of the Holocaust was dedicated over the weekend. And I was reading an article in the New York Times yesterday, and you know, they have this thing. So you go in the museum and you get this. You're issued a card which has the name and you know of a person who was lost in the Holocaust. So this one guy who happens to be Jewish and homosexual got the card of a Jewish homosexual as he moved through the museum. But I think of that word ghetto, and I think I think that gay people are often forced into ghettos. And what are ghettos? Ghettos are where you're supposed to be in hiding and stay out of sight and stay poor.
And you know what gay people do with ghettos? Gay people turn them around to be the most desirable real estate in the city within 5 to 10 years. In every city.
Is that another call, Betty? Okay. Well, Catherine, thanks. You're welcome to continue this dialogue. You're a good participant.
Well, I just think you're doing some great work here.
Well, we're doing our best shot, and thanks for your good work, and thanks for calling in. I'd like to. This business of family has been troubling to me as I've thought about it over the years, as if that there were certain groups of people like gays and lesbians that are not interested in family values, when in fact what what they are denied are the the legal abilities and the full support and honor and respect of the community as families are formed. It just is a terrible irony. Irony is too easy a word to describe that. Isn't that what part of the struggle is about? Is the struggle to build and create families and to have a measure of respect?
Yeah, I think it's all about respect. I mean, that's what we don't have respect for the earth. We don't have respect for diversity. We don't have the respect for people who are different than us or who believe different than us. And there are just, I mean, I know that we're all out here and we know that that's not reality. We know that it is all about love and it's about taking care of the earth. It's about taking care of each other, and that, there are gays and lesbians who will say that our politics is the politics of hate, of love and not of hate, and the politics of justice. And it's, I don't know, I think we just all need to have the power of one and to be who we are. We're your friends, we're your family, you're neighbors, we're everybody, we're everywhere.
Catherine, maybe we ought to run you for office.
No, I'm just a painter.
just a good house painter, right?
That's right.
Okay, Catherine, thanks an awful lot for calling.
All right, take care.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Well, there's a well-spoken Missoulian, I'd say.
Yeah.
Right.
We need a few more of them.
Right.
I'm going to just pin this little pin on you here. I marched, even though...
Well, okay, thank you.
It was quite an amazing experience.
What about a march in Helena?
A march in Helena needs to happen. It needs to happen at the next legislative session.
That far away?
That's when it's going to do the most good. We need to put our thumbs on them when they're reading our papers and when they're voting on our issues. We need to fill the place. Did you happen to catch the I think it was the workman's comp bill? Did you happen to catch the newscast where so many people from Montana showed up for that hearing that they had flooded the outside of the Capitol building. We did pretty well filling the hearing room. It was about 2/3 homocentric, I think, in my memory. But that's what we need to do. We need to fill the hall. We need to fill the lawn. We need to let them know that we're here and we're not ashamed. We're happy to be alive and we're happy with who we are and we're healthy. And we contribute to society. We spend money. Washington, D.C. was happy to have us. I'd like to tell you about a couple of the experiences.
We've got about 3 minutes now? Okay.
It's pretty mind-boggling. One thing, the subway system in Washington, D.C., it's a real big, comfortable subway system for all of our politicians. And it's got a lot of sound barriers, so it doesn't hurt anybody's ears, But we hurt some ears, I think, because it was jam-packed for miles with gay people. And one person would start a cheer, and the entire subway system would cheer the cheer. And people who weren't necessarily affiliated with us were pretty amazed at what was going on. And pretty soon they were joining in. They liked the feeling.
Well, I thank you for coming down and being here and talking with me, and I'm really proud that you gave me. Even though I didn't march, but you marched for me. So
there you go.
Thank you. And I'll reiterate this. When Senator Baucus calls you up or Diane Sands up and says, I'm sorry that I didn't get a chance to meet with you, but I'm going to fly out to Missoula and meet with you at a public meeting, or I want you to return to Washington as soon as possible so that I can sit down with you directly. That's when I'll believe a little, more. I
believe that Burns wouldn't see us.
And I think it's important for the whole delegation. I mean, Senator Burns has, certainly has a deserved reputation for being a very conservative individual, but it's time for him to get behind, civil and human rights and take a fresh look at it. Look around a little bit. And we're about ready to wrap. Is that right? We got 2 minutes?
Let's take this call.
All right. Hello.
McCarthy.
Yes.
This is Kate, and I just wanted to thank you for putting this on the air, and I wanted to support you in your desire to see the federal government have meetings in a closet rather than the First Federal Building, First Federal Bank. And thank Tracy and Catherine and the other callers for participating in the show.
Well, thank you.
You bet.
All right. Okay. Well, I think we're running out of time, right? Okay. Tracy, thanks a lot. Go ahead. You had one last thing to say?
If you're gay and you know it, clap your hands. If you're gay and you know it, clap your hands. It went all through the city that way. It was great.
Great.
1.3 million, not 300,000, by an independent corporation who counted us.
Okay. We're done, folks, and tune in again in 2 weeks on a Thursday night. I'll be away at my brother's wedding, but I think we're going to have a rerun or something will be on the air on Missoula Community Access Television. Couldn't do it without you, folks. Thanks a lot. And we'll say goodnight and see you later. And listen to the closing music and watch for the credit.